Well, it's something that's joked about in pop culture often, but it's certainly no laughing matter. A shocking, or not so shocking, poll reveals that 1 in 10 prison inmates have been raped or sexually victimized. To tackle the issue, the Obama administration has ordered mandatory screenings and prevention regulations and hope to reduce the sexual assaults. There have been a lot of discussion about what goes on in private prisons, but what about state prisons? In 2008, teen inmates in New York State's prison, Rikers Island, beat an 18-year-old inmate to death as guards looked the other way. Once it was investigated, it was found that the death was not unique. In fact, it was an unfortunate casualty of an institutionalized fight club happening within Rikers called the Program, where inmates violently fight each other to attain their place in the pecking order. The scandal resulted in 12 inmates and 2 guards being sentenced for their complicity. And that was the end of it, or so we thought. Fast forward 4 years later, the Village Voice has obtained hundreds of internal correction department documents that expose that the program has never stopped. In fact, it's gotten worse. Take a look at these photos. There are teen and adult inmates at Rikers Island who have been slashed or beaten within the last 2 years. These graphic images put a face into the type of violence that advocates say have been going on for years. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Officials now acknowledge that inmates fight 3 times a day, and just over the last year, Rikers cataloged 4,435 injuries. So will these documents finally bring much-needed exposure to the cover-up of systematic violence there? And is this happening across the country in more prisons? Joining me now to discuss more is the Village Voice author who actually exposed these cruel conditions, Rayman. Graham, can you tell us more specifically about what the program is?
Well, I just want to make one correction. This took place in the city jails.
City jails,
state prison.
sure.
State prison is a separate system. But the program is basically guards either actively encouraging or passively condoning inmate intimidation. There's a pecking order in this hierarchy among inmates. There'll be leaders who get extra privileges, who intimidate other inmates to use the phone to get their commissary money. They get the best seats to watch television. They tell inmates when they can be in their cell and when they can't. And it happens very commonly in the teen jail on Rikers Island.
And Graham, one of the documents you guys got actually outlined the rules, and that's kind of what you're specifying right now. I mean, this is actually documented that these are the rules of the program.
Yes, there was a document titled "The With It Program," because what they do is the leading inmates will ask new inmates, "Are you with it?" Meaning, are you going to go along with what we tell you to do? And if they don't, they get beaten. And that document was seized in a search of a cell in the teen jail at Rikers.
Graham, talk more about the weapons and the drug mules. I mean, are the guards completely aware that people are smuggling weapons and drugs inside? And are they complicit in kind of the cover-up of this aspect of what's going on?
Well, there certainly have been cases where guards have either been charged or fired for bringing contraband in on behalf of inmates. For example, there was a recent case involving cell phone that was discovered. There was a case involving a guard was allowing inmates to use an internet, use a computer to search the internet. As far as the weapons go, the inmates can be very ingenious. One knife I saw was a 8-inch fan blade that had been broken off and sharpened. They also take pieces of the radiator and turn them into knives, or pieces of plexiglass and sharpen them. They can be very creative in terms of arming themselves.
Graham, do you think that this is systematic across all city, state prisons? I mean, is this something that you think is happening and that we just don't know about?
I don't know. I mean, my expertise is in the city jail system. Remember, you're dealing with teenagers, which is a different dynamic than adults. They tend to fight more. But at the same time, I think the city jail system has to take more responsibility in stopping this kind of thing. I think if you're a correction officer and you know that you see this hierarchy in play and you let it happen, then you're doing a disservice to both yourself, the agency, and the teens themselves.
Do you think that the documents will halt this program once and for all, or do you think it's kind of going to be swept under the rug just like it was after the 2008 incident?
Well, my understanding is that the jail commissioner here, Dora Shiro, is trying to deal with it. She has added some staff in that jail, and I think this article sharpened the agency's focus on the problem.
Did anything change after 2008?
Well, 2008, Christopher Robinson's murder was like the perfect storm of events. You had the guards actively telling the inmates, control your fellow inmates, and the fact that he died was highly unusual. There hasn't been a homicide in that jail since.
What about the guards covering up? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, but the passive condoning of these practices has continued for sure, and there's also been a problem in that jail of the warden covering up incidents of fights and injuries and discouraging inmates from reporting them, which is still under investigation right now. There's also a federal investigation into violence on Rikers, so we'll see where that goes.
I mean, it just seems like, regardless of whether or not it's a city prison or federal prison or a private prison, I mean, it just seems like a lot of people who go into the prison system come out more hardened. There's gangs running things, and they use more drugs, and there's just so much violence. I mean, do you think that this is just an inherent thing within the prison industrial complex, let's say, and why isn't this more talked about? I mean, the fact that we are not rehabilitating prisoners to assimilate back in society properly.
Well, I think out of sight, out of mind. They're a constituency that doesn't have very much political influence. I mean, if you're a teenager and you've been arrested for graffiti, let's say, nonviolent crime, and you end up in Rikers and you find yourself getting beaten up, that's going to change your life. I mean, that's not a small thing. You're going to come out either traumatized or hardened, or the next chance you get, you're going to go after the people who beat you up. So it is something to be. Also, these are people who are not convicted of a crime. They are still pre-trial detainees. So they should be afforded, they are innocent until proven guilty, so they should be afforded more protection than say, a prisoner, someone in a state prison who's serving 25 to life for murder.
It is a shocking story, Graham, and thanks for publishing those documents, and everyone should definitely check those out, and hopefully it's not systematic across the nation, but it is very shocking. That was Graham Rayman, Village Voice writer.